erythrocytes can only go through there in single file line, so very, very small blood vessels here, whereas the lumen of arteries can be, fairly substantial, as even you've seen in your pig dissection and things like that, so some of them can be pretty big. Valves have a still larger lumen, and that's, as we'll see, has to do with a bit of the fluid dynamics that we'll talk about when we talk about low pressure blood being in veins. But things to remember are that the artery is going to have a much thicker tunica media. That's to deal with high pressure. Also, there is a lot of involvement from arteries and arterioles in terms of vasoconstriction and vasodilation, the expansion and contraction of the blood vessel, which is really driven by the autonomic nervous system.
We also have the diaphragm.
The other big difference that we'll see here is so much thinner tunica media in the vein. But the other big difference that we see is that in the endothelium here, in the tunica intima of the blood vessel, of vein specifically, there are these little valve incroppings. And those valve incroppings basically allow blood to move despite the fact that it's under low pressure and despite the fact that it's flowing against gravity. Valves help basically get blood back to the heart, even though it's really far away from the heart and has really low pressure in a vein. So those work much like the semilunar valves of the heart in that blood backflows to fill them and works its way up a little bit at a time, kind of being milked by the skeletal muscle as we go. So you should be able to compare the tunica intima, the tunica media, and the tunica externa in an artery, a capillary, and a vein. So hopefully those are some helpful reminders there. So just another view, just so we know, basically endothelium with basement membrane, okay, make up the tunica intima. So if you guys remember your epithelial cells, okay, we've got endothelium here, so which is a type of epithelial tissue. Okay, we've got a basement membrane, and then we've got that connective tissue called the lamina propria here that's below that, and then adhering it to the next layer, which is the tunica media. So the tunica media here, okay, muscle, all right, predominantly muscle. This would be an artery. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, so we've got the artery here, and then we've got a layer of elastic tissue, and we'll talk about various types of arteries. How much elastic tissue is found in an artery has a lot to do with where it is, and so we'll talk a little bit more about the elastic tissue there. And then the tunica adventitia, we have kind of a layer of connective tissue, and here we see the vasorum, and nerves that are attached to the outside of the blood vessel itself by way of that connective tissue in the tunica adventitia. So this vasorum is basically the vessel of the vessels, because it's supplying these cells that make up the blood vessel itself with nutrients and oxygen. So just in summary and review, arteries have the thickest walls, okay, specifically the tunica media is much thicker. The lumens of veins are much larger. Skeletal muscle helps to milk blood in the veins towards the heart, okay, and we'll talk about some other kind of pump systems that work to help blood get back to the heart and veins despite its low pressure. And then the walls of the capillaries are only one cell thick, and that allows for easy exchange of oxygen and gases. So if we look under the microscope, okay, here we have a bunch of adipose on the outside. We've got a nerve, okay, but the thing that we're really looking at is the comparison between this guy, the artery, and this guy, the vein. Okay, so bigger lumen, some evidence of valves here on the inside. Okay, the artery, here's the endothelium. Those are the endothelial cells there, staining a little darker purple. Okay, and then what we have is this big thick layer, okay, of the tunica media. That's mostly smooth muscle. And then we've got our outer layer of the tunica adventitia. Compare this layer, especially, to this layer here. There's not very much muscle associated with